Coming up on your favorite podcast, the return of peak cinema. Lauren, Ryan, dropping in for what will no doubt be another fun hour and a half or so of podcasting as we look at Batman 1989 with all the hype around Zack Snyder's re-release of the Justice League, the 4-hour extravaganza that, quite frankly, I don't know if I have time for. Lauren wants to talk the original Batman 1989, Michael Keaton, Jack Nicholson, or reverse that because Jack Nicholson would get upset if he didn't get top billing. Jack Nicholson, Michael Keaton, Kim Basinger. Everybody in that one. Solid film. Still holds up. Really decent. Although there are some things that drive me a little crazy. Dare I say batty about the film? We'll talk about it. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about all kinds of stuff tonight. It's Peak Cinema. It's Lauren. It's Ryan. It's me. It's next on the pod. Hey! It's the Tim Anderson Podcast. I'm Tim. That's Ryan in the bottom corner there eating a banana cream pie, and I have to tell you, it looks delicious.
Yeah,
can't even talk about it right now.
Feast your eyes. The Perkins 8-inch banana cream pie. You really just can't beat it.
Jesus.
It's my birthday this week. It was my birthday yesterday, so it's my favorite pie, and we're gonna go with it tonight.
Happy birthday, by the way, my friend. It's
Thank you.
It's a big one for you. The big 2-8. Is that right? 2-8?
That's right.
2-8.
28.
Wow. Where has the time gone?
We're here for it.
Yeah. And you're lovely, and also joined tonight by your lovely wife, as always, because it's Peak Cinema Night here on the podcast. The lovely and talented Lauren. How are you, dear?
I'm doing good. I've had PTO for the last 3 days, and I will probably also partake in that pie later. So I'm feeling pretty happy.
It's kind of nice to live with the guy who has the pie.
Oh, yes.
Always an advantage.
That's why I do.
Definitely not digging into this with a fork right now, thinking this is all for me.
The key is you got to still make slices for yourself, Ryan. You can't just eat the pie as is. You got to make slice. That's unbelievable.
There's no worry. If I don't get the pie, I'll get the ice cream cake that he bought 2 weeks ago for no reason and has been keeping in our freezer.
It's the best decision. I have adult money, and I'm going to use it. Why wouldn't I buy an ice cream cake on a whim? What reason would I have to hold on to that $15?
Ryan has been planning his birthday for the last 3 weeks, is basically what this comes down to, is he's been preparing for this, and it's manifesting itself now in this, in cakes and pies. And a lovely tiramisu that I saw last night on your Insta.
Look, ice cream cake, banana cream pie, tiramisu is the trifecta.
It really is.
Of birthday desserts.
Yeah, I don't know how you get maybe a cheesecake for a fatal 4-way, but that's as good a triple threat as you're going to get.
You know what we need to do, Tim? We need to have a food podcast where we do like a March Madness dessert bracket.
I'm very much in on this. Although it's New York it's cheesecake. Cheesecake wins. But tiramisu's in that. I mean, they've got their own region for sure. A banana cream pie's in there for sure. A
banana
monster
cream
cookie.
Pie's got to be A1 seed, right? It's maybe not just one overall, but it's got to be A1.
It's got to definitely be the number one in the East Regional here for or something like that. And a good monster cookie. Lauren, are you a monster cookie fan?
Yes. Also, I don't know if you've ever had those T-Rex cookies that they have in Minneapolis that are gigantic. Literally the size of my head.
Yeah, they're in Ridgedale too, over at the mall, local pod here.
Oh,
there you
don't
go.
tell me that.
Yeah, they have a stand there.
Those are amazing. I could legitimately eat like 10 of those in one sitting.
Honestly, we walk past there a lot when we go down there, and it's special to us because we were into lockdown basically the next day. Carrie and I were at Ridgedale, walking around, looking at furniture, planning to buy our house. We stopped and ate this giant cookie, And the next day we were on lockdown. So it's like, hey, I'll enjoy your cookie. You're never leaving the house again.
That was your nice send-off. You get this giant cookie because you won't have any more.
Yeah. They basically said, make that last for 15 months. 15 months. You can have that, and then you can get it back. That'll be good. Anyway, hey, I got to ask you this question before we get started. So I was at the local, one of the local cupcake establishments here in town, and the wife is buying cupcakes, and she has got the 4 cupcakes, she's got the cookie, and it comes out to $17 or whatever it is, and they're like, would you like to have a tip on the card? Well, first of all, I don't like this. I don't like that they're asking if we want to put a tip on the card. I feel like you got to let me make that call. Like, I know that it's COVID times, and you don't want to hand me the receipt, and you don't want me to. You can't put that on me. You can't do that, as far as I'm concerned. So my wife then, in the most savage move ever, says no, and then it's just so great. Just the most savage, just ice water in the veins. Just. Jordan at the free throw line late in a basketball, just ice water running through her veins, no pressure at all, says no, and signs for it, and we're out of there. And she's like, I'm not going to tip somebody for just grabbing the cupcake that's already been made out of the thing and putting it into the tin. Like, that's the bare minimum of your job. Like, why am I paying you extra for that?
That's what I do kind of agree with that, because the reason that we tip, the reason that I would tip somebody is because they are working a job that basically lives primarily on tips, right? So like a restaurant job or a delivery job, that kind of thing, where it's like, it's really important that these people make tips because they make no money otherwise. But I assume at an establishment where a tip is theoretically optional, that isn't cool. Like, you can't pay somebody, like at a restaurant, you can pay them slightly less than minimum wage because they assume you'll make it up in tips. But at Nothing Bundt Cakes or whatever the fuck, I assume those people are getting paid the amount of money that they're supposed to be getting paid. And not that tipping wouldn't be awesome, but also you're right. It's like, well, but this is just your job.
Well, see, tipping to me, and maybe this is where I'm wrong in the tipping world, because now, we're out in Vegas, and everybody gets a tip in Vegas. I mean, Jesus, everybody gets a damn tip in Vegas. Doesn't matter what you do. Can I lift this bag one inch off the ground and carry it a foot down the hall for you? How about a $5 tip? Oh, you need me to take that? How about a tip? I got to tip you for this. Oh, let me tip you for that. That's Vegas, right? And I understand that. I can respect that. But here's my theory on tips. I feel like it comes from when you provide me an extra service that's personalized a little bit to me. For example, I ask for delivery on the pizza. The pizza place doesn't have to deliver my pizza to me. They could be a carry-out-only pizza establishment. They deliver it. It's a service, but they bring it right to my house. It's personalized for me. They made that pizza specifically for me. When I go to a restaurant, I'm getting waited on by a server. That server is waiting specifically on me, bringing me my drink that I ordered specifically made the way I want it. Bring me my food the way I specifically asked for it. The side dishes. It's a service they are providing me. An extra personalized service. Now, if the lady at the cupcake place wanted to make me my own cupcake and would write my name on the cupcake or something special like that, I would tip her for that. Right? But if you're just giving me the standard thing that is already in the case, I shouldn't have to tip you for that, right?
I do feel like that is a little bit weird. But also, just I guess the idea of tipping is so strange, because there are certain businesses that it's like, if I didn't tip, I would be a major asshole.
Yes.
Rightfully so. If I go to a restaurant and somebody provides perfectly adequate service and I just give them nothing, wow, I'm a massive dick.
Yeah, you are.
I don't think I've genuinely, even terrible service, I don't think I've ever done that. No. I don't think I've ever just not tipped someone at a restaurant. So it is a little weird to do it at Yeah, just like at an establishment where it's like that's their job. You ask for cupcake, they give you cupcake.
Too many of these companies are trying to wade into the tip world, and I just want like some of them to be like, nope, you don't get to wade into this. This is not your world. Like you don't get to get a stake here. These are not reserved for your businesses. I just feel like there's too many out there that are trying to like just squeeze their way into the old service tip industry. And now I feel like I'm giving tips to everybody. And it's like, we got to draw a line somewhere here, people. Ryan.
Can we pause for just a second? Just to say that this message is brought to you by Workers of the World Unite, the Communist Manifesto. And if these companies were so concerned about how much their workers were getting paid by the general public, maybe we could bump everything up 30 cents and you can pay them a living wage. Look, I'm not here to advance a political message. I'm simply saying. I
knew you were going to say this. I knew it. I told my wife, I said, here's the problem if I bring this up on the podcast. Ryan will then dive into Warren's talking points, and before I know it, I'm negotiating the $15 minimum wage across the country, and it's out of control.
But that's entirely right. I mean, there is this weird loophole where when you're a business who basically your employees rely on tips, you can technically kind of pay them less. And it really feels like, yeah, maybe that's a slight inconvenience for me to give you an extra $2 or whatever for the tiny little service that you did. But really what it is it's a way for them to instill like a tip, like a culture of giving tips so that they can pay these people less money for doing a job they have to come in and do in order to make that money. It's bullshit.
It's very much the same way that Bruce Wayne would be way more effective by using his billions of dollars to forward social progress and use that money to help people rather than beating up the victims of the system that end up doing crime on the streets for petty amounts of cash. Which brings us to tonight's topic.
Yes, that's the beautiful segue. I knew you'd bring it there. Yeah. Chef's kiss. Mwah. Beautiful, Ryan. Anyway, yes, tonight on Peak Cinema, folks, we go to 1989. Lauren picked this and actually called an audible about halfway through the movie process. That's why it's actually taken us a little longer to get this pod up, because Lauren called a couple weeks ago and said, I'm calling an audible. We're doing something totally different. Lauren, talk about it, explain it, and then we'll get into it.
So we had picked another movie, one that we might do later, so I don't want to name it. A little less well-known, though, and a little more niche, a little more specific to my personal childhood. And I watched Zack Snyder's Justice League, all 4 hours of it, and managed not to go completely insane in that time. So I just felt like I definitely needed a Batman-related palate cleanser. And it was time to watch this movie, which I think is definitely has kind of gone down in history as one of the best Batman movies ever made.
Certainly has.
And I think, look, I'm not trying to upset Snyder Bros, mostly because I don't care.
He has bros.
But also, he has bros, and they are many.
Bros.
They are many. And they are the worst. And look, if you like that movie, that's fine. I'm so proud of you. But I absolutely hated it. I hated fucking every second of it.
All 4 hours of it? You hated it?
I took notes for the first hour, and then I got too bored to take notes. So I got about halfway through that movie before I texted you, Tim, and said, we have to watch Batman. I need to remember what it was like back when things were good.
I want to go back to a simpler time. Oh, this is a pre-Lauren's birth, though, so that's going to be part of this. This is a tough one. You have seen this one, though, before, yeah?
Oh, yes.
And Ryan?
Yes, many, many times.
Ryan, you have seen this?
Yeah, this is a staple of my childhood. This is look, I may be a lot of things. I may be may have been raised under a rock. I may have missed almost all pop culture between 1950 and 2005. But one of the few things that I actually received in my life was superheroes and comic book stuff. I grew up where my parents had a grandmother clock in the corner of our tiny little house on Thomas Avenue in Minneapolis. And I swear to you, I thought my dad was Batman, because in the cartoon, Batman's cave was behind the grandfather clock. So I would go hide behind the grandfather clock, and that would be my imaginary bat cave. So this is one of those things that I grew up with. I cherish it. I love this movie. And it was interesting to go back and watch it with a critical lens.
I must say I haven't had a chance to see this movie a ton lately, but I do recall the hype of it when it came out for real the first time around. I was 8 years old. It was just hitting me at a different point in my youth, and I just remember the Prince song, and I just remember everything about it around it at that time. It was such a big deal, and it just took over everything for like a year. It was like the first real epic film that I remember that I'm old enough to like, oh man, that literally was on, and they marketed the shit out of this film. I mean, it was on everything. Collector's cups and figurines, and it was just it was just ubiquitous. It was everywhere. And
it was a moment.
Yes. So there you go. You're in my time here. This is right in my youthful wheelhouse. Nothing but no cable TV, Twins over the air, and Batman. That was my whole life. And it's different for me because my first experience with Batman is the 1960s TV show, because it was on in reruns. I think it was one of the local channels, Channel 29 or something that maybe had it. But and so you come home and it was on from like 4 to 5, and I'd get my Batman fix. But that was such a different Batman than what this is, and so I think I had a tougher time adjusting to it. I think than maybe what I at least now watching it, it's different than what I watched it when I was 8 or 9. It's a very different film.
Yeah, I think it's different. I mean, Ryan and I grew up with, a different version of Batman. We grew up with this version of Batman, and like the Batman animated series is probably my first real experience with the character. And I am a major Batman fan. Let me for anybody who listens to this who doesn't know who I am, I'm a massive Batman fan. And this is Michael Keaton's Batman is the reason why. And I just think he is so, even though he can't turn his head, God bless him, he really embodies Bruce Wayne so well. And it's crazy to me now that it was so controversial to cast him. And I guess I kind of understand why, but he's just, I don't know, he's so calm, cool, and collected. We were talking about the difference between him and Christian Bale, and there are many differences. But I think the big thing for me is that Michael Keaton is such an effortless Bruce Wayne. It's really a 2-character part. There's Bruce Wayne and there's Batman.
Yep, I agree with that.
And he's so effortless as Bruce Wayne. There's something about when Christian Bale plays him, you can definitely tell when he's Bruce Wayne, that's the costume, that's the mask. He's putting on an act. He's, publicly dating models, and he's flaunting his wealth, and he's being ridiculous. And he's doing that on purpose so that people won't suspect him of the most ridiculous thing that he does in his free time. And what I like about Michael Keaton's Batman is that he doesn't have to do that. He doesn't have to look like Christian Bale. He doesn't have to have muscles on muscles on muscles. He doesn't have to, overwhelmingly flaunt his wealth. When he meets Vicky Vale, he is just calm, cool, collected, intelligent, a nice guy. I mean, he's just innately suave. And so I think that he embodies the character, in my opinion, better than Christian Bale, better than Ben Affleck, which I'll talk about later.
Yeah, we could definitely get back to the Ben Affleck piece here sooner. I'm coming at it slightly disagreeing with you a little bit, just pushing back a little, only because I think, and this is an age thing maybe more than anything. Yes, I like the campy Batman. I grew up with Adam West. But I like this Batman. I don't hate it. So I'm going to speak with that caveat first, that I like Michael Keaton in this role. And I'm a Michael Keaton mark as a general rule. I like pretty much everything he's in. Like, pretty much everything. And I had a lot of exposure to Michael Keaton prior to this Batman. I had seen Mr. Mom. Gung Ho remains one of my 5 or 6 just most underrated films in the history of cinema. It's I think it might be one of Ron Howard's first, if not his first. It is an incredible film. It's one of my all-time faves. Clean and Sober, he's really, really good in that one too. Beetlejuice. This is all kind of heading up to that film, and he'd kind of gotten it. That's why I think the mark is that he was a comedic actor, but he had played a lot of serious. He'd done some very serious stuff, and like Clean and Sober is really serious, very serious film, and I like him, and so I had my exposure to him in those films, and to me, he feels. I like his Batman. His Batman, I like a lot. His Bruce Wayne feels uncomfortable. That's what I got. But we can talk about that as we go into the film itself. Because I don't know what else he could do with it, too, at the same time. Like, I don't know what more is in that script that allows him to. And this is my common problem I have with the Batman movies in general, is that I don't think they do enough with the Bruce Wayne character, that they just hope that the Batman sort of carries everything. But it's like, there's so much more that they could do with just Bruce Wayne. And they just never flush that out enough. They never do the Tony Stark treatment to Bruce Wayne, like where they really build the Tony Stark so that we appreciate Iron Man. I don't know if they ever do that in any of these Batman films. Like, make us like Bruce Wayne.
I think that of the movies, this one comes the closest to really understanding the Bruce Wayne side of it. You get more of Bruce Wayne in this movie than you really do in any other iteration of a live-action Batman. And you're right. I don't think it's perfect. I definitely think that there's more that they could have done with Bruce Wayne in this iteration, especially with the Vicky Vale storyline. I think that you're absolutely right. But I think if you're looking at comparing just the biggest 3 that we have, right, on screen, you've got Michael Keaton, Christian Bale, and Ben Affleck is the most recent, right? I definitely think that you got in both Bale and Affleck way more Batman heavy, way less Bruce Wayne. Really, you don't really understand the man behind the mask as much. But here in this one, you kind of get the feeling of a sort of, I don't want to say even tortured soul, but a guy who is lonelier than he lets on. And you really kind of start to understand who Bruce Wayne is a little bit, even if you don't get as much exposure to him, the character, as you want.
It's going to be so. I can't wait to have this conversation because it is different. By the way, no love for George Clooney and Val Kilmer. Are you kidding? I mean, what are we doing here? I mean, are you kidding? As far as Bruce Wayne's, God, just
I don't even. They're not even coming up in this conversation.
I don't hate. Batman Forever is not good. I want to say that for the record. It's not good, but I think it's campy on purpose, and therefore it's passable.
But they're both so bad. The post Tim Burton,
the
Michael
Joel
Keaton
Schumachers
Batman,
are not good. The Joel Schumachers are pretty bad.
Just awful. Because there's some camp to these movies
and
in a totally different way.
And camp is good. I like camp.
Camp isn't a bad thing. There's some camp to these movies, but it's very like only Tim Burton could have made these Batman movies.
Yeah.
They're campy and they feel like you're reading a comic book, but they are still dark. There's no the problem I have, the biggest problem, and I have many, I have with the Joel Schumacher ones is that it's like it's all bright and light and neon. It feels fake, it feels plastic, and this at least feels like it's campy, but it's not stupid. It's campy, but it's not cheesy. It's campy, but it's still grounded. That's what I like about it.
Yeah, I could listen to that.
This is right in Tim Burton's sweet spot. This is kind of still towards the beginning of his career when he's actually knocking out some really good movies. And these were perfect for him.
Yeah, he had done like Pee-wee's Big Adventure, which I think got him in line to do this. And of course he did Beetlejuice prior, and just starting to catch some fire here as a director, a young director at an interesting time, right? When things are moving to this blockbustery 90s, like we're right on the cusp. And this movie really lays the ground floor for like, hey, you can do like this superhero genre in this really dark adult way. You don't have to turn it into a child's movie or a family film. You can do other stuff with it. And I mean, it's really, in that regard, it's a pioneer film, right? It's a groundbreaking film. So I think
I like to credit the X-Men movies in 2000 as kind of like the beginning of this era of nerds being cool and marketable and starting this whole franchise of comic book movies. But I think it really begins here. I don't think until we see these movies does it occur to anybody that this is marketable. This is something people want to see.
Right.
And you're right. You don't have to make it for kids. It doesn't have to be Adam West. It doesn't have to be kind of dumbed down in the same way that when we finally got a Deadpool movie, it needed to be rated R. It needed to be adult. Batman couldn't be some kind of PG romp. It needed to be, especially the Dark Knight Returns comic by Frank Miller came out in, I think, 1986. And The Killing Joke had just come out the year before this movie came out. So we're already starting to see this is the era where Batman as a character is starting to trudge through the trauma and trudge through the darkness. And I think that's what people needed to see, that we all grew up with this comic book. Now let's watch him in a movie format.
Let's move. Let's talk a little bit about. Let's do some of the stuff that we always do as we give you a little backdrop as we head into the film categories here. First of all, this is what our favorite thing to do. It's one of my favorite things to do. Yeah, Ryan, you got something? I thought you were going to say something, Ryan. Or are you just?
No, just had an itch on my nose.
Oh, that can happen. It's all that pie.
All right. The 3 bites I had before I put it back in the fridge for later.
We always talk about the films whenever we're reviewing films. It seems like every year when we move to the domestic box office totals for that year, we always say, this might be the greatest year for movies. I plan to say it again for 1989. I absolutely do. What a murderer's row this is. Number 1 film in the country that year, 1989, is... Well, it's Batman, for God's sake. Batman, okay. $251 million grossed. Just a monster. It was the summer blockbuster, June 23rd release that year. Does $251 million. Just gigantic. Number 2, Indiana Jones, Last Crusade. Batman beats Indiana Jones by almost $60-some million in gross at the box office. Insane. Actually, more than that. Like 600 or whatever. No, it's 60 million. I got it wrong. That's a lot, though. That's a big number. Indiana Jones, though, monster film. Then a full $100 million ahead of the third place film, Lethal Weapon 2. Lethal Weapon 2. Which, by the way, as sequels go, might be one of the few sequels that's better than the original. It's very good. If you haven't seen... well, first of all, Lethal Weapon's awesome. Lethal Weapon 2 kicks ass. Lauren, have you not seen Lethal Weapon 2?
No, I have not.
That's it. You're going to do 1 and 2, and we're coming right back for the pod. No, I'm just kidding. No, that'll be great. Rain Man, number 4 that year. Rain Man. One of Tom Cruise's better films. Doesn't get enough credit for that. He's really good. Dustin Hoffman is the guy who gets the Oscar, but Tom Cruise is really good in that film. Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Which is one of Lauren's favorites.
I love that movie.
Yeah,
so
Ryan is a big fan of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Huge fan. One of Lauren's favorites, Look Who's Talking. Number 6, the revitalizer of John Travolta's career. Ghostbusters 2 is 7th. Dead Poet Society 8th. Parenthood 9. Back to the Future 2 is 10. So it's actually I think there's 4 sequels in the top 10.
The one that Lauren cares about is actually 11th.
Yeah, 11th is When Harry Met Sally. There you go.
Genuinely one of my favorite movies. I've been waiting for you to say it. I am upset it's not in the top 10. That's wrong.
Didn't miss by much. Wrong. Lost by less than $1 million to Back to the Future Part 2. It grossed not bad for a rom-com to gross $92 million.
Lauren, are you really going to sit there and tell me that you're not happy with the fact that Look Who's Talking is 6th and When Harry Met Sally is 11th? Are we just going to let that slide?
Look, I can't account for people's taste, okay? Look who's talking. Didn't they make like 5 of those?
They made a few. They definitely did. They did a 2, and then they did one where the dogs talked, and that's when I'm out. That's when I'm out. It's a hard out.
I'm pretty much out in the first.
The original Look Who's Talking isn't the worst thing I ever saw in my life. It's not the worst movie I've ever seen.
Also buried on this list, my favorite Christmas movie of all time.
Christmas Vacation.
Yep.
That's
National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
20th on this list. Can you believe that? But partly that's because it was released in December of that year. So it might get more 1990 credit than it does 1989 credit. But Turner and Hooch, which one of the saddest films in the history of movies. Uncle Buck, a great film. A movie that I have
also my nickname.
Yeah, a movie that I've actually wept at, Field of Dreams, 14th.
You're allowed to cry at Field of Dreams.
If you don't cry at the end of Field of Dreams, you're not a human being. All right? You're made of stone.
Does Kevin Costner cry at the end of Field of Dreams? Because I don't think he can emote.
He does emote, and he emotes beautifully at the end of the film. It's really something special. It's easily Costner's best work besides Bull Durham. It's not close. It's so good. We'll talk Field of Dreams down the road. But we like to share that. Other things, Roger Ebert, 2 out of 4 stars. Doesn't really dig it. What a jerk. We're struggling with Raj this year. In our pods, we are really struggling with Raj. We're having a tough go of it here.
I'm not a fan of his. So I grew up with him and who's the other guy? Not Siskel.
Roper. You're
Roper.
Old now that you're so young. It's Roper and Ebert for you, and I'm still Siskel. Yeah.
But it's I grew up with him, and I remember thinking, I hate Roper. He hates all these movies that I love. And it's like he turns out to be the only person I agree with on most of this stuff. Because this is getting ridiculous.
I don't always see it Roger's way, but I at least as I get older start to be like, yeah, I get it. I understand why he said that. There are things he says in his review of this film that I'm like, yeah, I kind of get that. It's very stylish. This film does have a lot of style to it. And I think the chemistry between Vale and Bruce Wayne, that relationship doesn't really work. It doesn't really make a lot of sense in this film. And I think that's the stuff that Roger points out when he looks at his review. He talked about that.
I'd agree with that. There's nothing, and we can talk about this later because she's our ingenue. There's nothing really to her.
Yeah, there's just not a lot going on. I like Kim Basinger. She's good looking. I like her. Solid 8.5. I mean, there's nothing wrong.
She's not doing a bad job. She's not a bad actress. She's just, things just happen to her.
I don't think it's well written for her.
No.
I don't blame it on Kim Basinger. I blame it on just that they made her about as 2-dimensional as humanly possible, or 1-dimensional perhaps.
This is the epitome of people don't know how to write women.
Yeah, it's just hot ingenue, throw her in there, we'll be fine.
Yeah.
They basically tried to make her Lois Lane.
Yeah, which I don't really like. He has a million. I mean, I suppose if you want to do Vicky Vale, do Vicky Vale. But if she's going to be that type, if she's going to be a Lois Lane type, then make her a Lois Lane type. Lois Lane has some balls. You know what I mean?
Some chutzpah.
Vicky Vale is just Vicky Vale is just in this movie. She just kind of exists, and things just kind of happen to her, and she has no character whatsoever.
Kind of easy. Not gonna lie,
they go on one date, and later in the movie, she's like, "But I love you." I love you.
One date, and it wasn't even that good of a date.
What are you?
They're eating soup at a kitchen table that's the size of a downstairs in a 4-bedroom apartment or house.
This is I think my biggest problem with the movie is watching it now with a critical lens. Vicky Vale has no character development. They go on one date. She's in love with him. He's in love with her. He reveals who he is to this woman. Nobody else knows but Alfred. But he reveals who he is to this woman he's been on one date with.
Yeah, what happened to the big secret, Bruce? Jesus Christ, you just tell it to everybody.
And straight up, gone in the second movie.
And no, yeah, exactly. Where's Vicky going with the big expose in film number 2? Like, oh, by the way, I slept with Bruce Wayne. Turns out he's Batman. Here's the story. Oh, and by the way, he's an asshole because he dumped me like 6 weeks later.
More than 11.
It's just the most ridiculous thing ever. All right, we'll get to it. We'll get to the plot here in just a minute when we get back to more of that, but we can't help it. Let's go to the casting area. That we call it the casting couch, if you will. As you mentioned at the top, Michael Keaton kind of hated for 50,000 letters were written to the studio because they didn't want Keaton to play Batman. Didn't make sense. Can I throw
Bob Kane and the writer for this movie, what's his name? Sam Hamm. I just said that for the
Sam Hamm.
First time out loud.
Sam Hamm. Yeah. Sounds like
Sam
a Dr.
Hamm
Seuss book
and
here.
Co-creator Bob Kane also did not like the casting of Michael Keaton and tried to get Tim Burton to change it.
I don't mean to cut you off, Lauren, but I have to ask a very serious question. Is Sam Hamm's middle initial I? Samuel Isaac Hamm or something?
I wrote his name in my notes like 100 times, and I just said it for the first time out loud. It just occurred to me.
And did Tim Burton?
I will not cast Michael Keaton in the bed. I will not cast Michael Keaton in his head. I will not eat green eggs and ham. I will not eat Sam I Ham.
I can see Tim Burton sitting in a studio. That's Sam I Ham. That's Sam I Ham. I do not like that Sam I Ham.
He's got a little pig voodoo doll. That's just like.
Oh, it's so good. Can I tell you who they were thinking of having for him, though, before they settled on Michael Keaton?
Yes.
Here we go. Let me know what you think. Mel Gibson. Yes or no?
It makes sense in 89.
It does. Lethal Weapon 2, Red Hot, Martin Riggs, Mel Gibson makes total sense. Tom Selleck. Magnum PI.
I don't know how you ditch the mustache.
That's the problem. He'd have to go sans mustache, and I'm not ready for that at that stage.
Unless he just goes full Cesar Romero and they paint his mustache.
Oh, they can't do that.
Color.
No, they can't. They can't.
I would have paid money for that.
My guy Kevin Costner. They asked about that.
No. Why does everybody want to cast Kevin Costner?
Because he's an action guy. He was doing action films.
To be fair, Kevin Costner has the Batman stoicism down pat.
Yeah.
That's because he can't emote.
He does emote. You haven't seen the end of Field of Dreams. Anyway. Dad, you want to have a catch? God damn it. If you don't cry at the end of that, you're not a human being. Anyway. Here's the one actually that I would go for. This was the one that you could talk me into, to be honest. Chuck Sheen. Charlie Sheen. I call him Chuck. We got a good vibe. Here's why. Charlie Sheen, I mean, a lot of people look at him now and they're like, no way that wouldn't work. Charlie Sheen, just 2 years prior to this film, does two of the best dramas of that decade in Platoon and Wall Street. Back to back. And he's young. He's good looking. When you go and watch him in 2.5 Men, 1,000 Years Later, he is Bruce Wayne. He's rich. He's a playboy. He's attractive. He attracts, very attractive. He does that Hollywood jet set kind of thing. He can play that part of Bruce Wayne, and I think you could buy it. And he could be stoic enough that you could buy the brooding aspect of it too. He's a guy that would have made a lot of sense to me. Now, I get it. He's a bit of a loose cannon, and at 1989, things are starting to move that direction, especially after doing things like Major League and stuff like that. But I would have liked Charlie Sheen in this role, and I wonder if it would have been different if he would have been cast in this spot.
Major League was also 89, by the way.
Yeah, Major League is awesome.
The name that came to mind for me when I was thinking of like 1989, who do you cast as Batman? The fact that Michael Douglas's name didn't come up at all.
Interesting.
Like, he would have been a great Batman.
Yeah, they never talked to him. Cause and you know that would have made I would have listened. Although that voice is so you couldn't do the rasp. The rasp is too real there. Now
You're
ahead.
obsessed with Michael Douglas, Ryan. But no.
What?
I get Charlie Sheen. I kind of agree with you on Charlie Sheen. Unfortunately, the two people on that list that I would agree in 1989 would have also been good choices have turned out to be insane people. So Charlie Sheen, I think, or Mel Gibson in 1989 would have been really, really good.
I've got a few more for you.
One of them.
I've got a few more for you.
Please tell me Kurt Russell's on this list.
Nope. Although Kurt Russell would have made a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could have talked me into Kurt Russell. I could have listened. Here's one that makes zero sense. Even in 1989. Doesn't make any sense at all. Bill Murray.
What? God damn it. No.
I read that and I literally almost spit out my water.
Dan Aykroyd.
I'm mad about it.
Only if Alfred is Dan Aykroyd.
Yeah. I was literally, I was drinking water and I almost spit it out when I read it. It was just like, are you out of your damn mind?
You could have the Joker be John Candy.
Oh, now that I would have paid for. Are you kidding me? I would have loved an overweight, rotund Joker. Like they said,
it's like
John Candy, are you going to play the Penguin? No, the Joker. That makes total sense.
You know what? No, I have no words. I'm mad about the idea that even came up in anybody's mind.
I got three more.
Oh God.
Yeah, I got three more. You right? I've told you, they interviewed everybody before they took Michael Keaton. They did not want him to be that guy. Tim Burton took him in the end. Harrison Ford.
Ooh,
I could have been talked into Harrison Ford. I could have.
That's really awesome. Actually, I think I like that more.
There's a lot of people who think Harrison Ford looks good now, and he's like 80. Could you imagine like a 40s, just fresh off of Indiana Jones, Harrison Ford? I think that moves the needle.
Gritty. He already kind of has that gravitas to his voice naturally. He's already like good looking and suave. Oh man, he would be great.
Can you hear me out on one?
Yes.
Rick Moranis.
Get out.
That's it. I want you to pack up that pie and give it to Lauren right now. Right now. You are on ice cream sandwich duty for the rest of the night, nothing more.
Honey, I Shrunk the Batcave.
Get out.
That's a different movie.
Two more. Dennis Quaid.
No.
Yeah, not enough. Not enough for me on Dennis Quaid. I get it.
No.
I get it, but no. Here's the interesting one.
Dennis Quaid was a national treasure in Frequency.
I like Dennis Quaid. But I just don't want him as Bruce Wayne. It's fine. He's fine.
Wasn't he also in Twister?
No, that's Bill Paxton, the late great.
Are you mixing them up with the Bills?
No, Dennis Quaid is not one of the Bills.
Now I have to look up Dennis Quaid because now I'm worried that I don't know Dennis Quaid.
Isn't it like is he Randy Quaid's brother or cousin?
I think they're related in some way, although I'm pretty sure Dennis doesn't want to talk to Randy anytime soon. Randy's psychotic right now.
Okay, I know who Dennis Quaid is.
Yeah. Dennis Quaid's Any Given Sunday. He's been in a lot of films.
I'm sorry.
He's been around.
Was in the Parent Trap.
Parent Trap. Thank you. Yeah, there you go.
I'm so sorry.
Last one, and this one I could be talked into. Here's the thing. I could be talked into a number of parts for this guy. Willem Dafoe.
Not as Batman. Joker.
See, that's just it. Everybody thinks of him as Joker, but actually, no, he went for Batman first. Bruce Wayne Batman.
It's important to remember that he was also coming off of one of the greatest dramatic performances of all time in Platoon, and that a lot of people saw him as more of a hero figure than a villain at this point.
Yep, and actually he goes on to play another hero type in that Mississippi Burning with Gene Hackman, which is one of the great dramas around that era. I think that might be right
as well
around
as
that
I think it was like 3-4 years later he did the Boondock Saints.
Yep.
With and he was Paul Smecker, so he was still very much on the hero train at this point in his career.
All right,
I just can't see it.
yeah, he's a little bit more of a left field pick for me. But you could have talked me into Sheen, Ford, Mel Gibson. I think I could have been talked into all three of those. No problem at all.
Yeah.
The Joker. You want to hear some of the names for the Joker? This will blow your mind a little bit. Now, they kind of liked Jack Nicholson from the big. They liked him, but they did talk to other people. Tim Curry.
Ooh. Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that so much.
Problem is he was Pennywise in the original.
You're hitting all of Lauren's buttons here with saying
and that's
Tim
the problem
Curry,
with that
Tim
one.
Burton movie.
It would have been a Dr. Frankenfurter and Pennywise from the It, and I think that's too far down the road for Tim Curry. I don't know if that people would have got past that. I don't know.
He would have been the clown guy.
David Bowie.
Yes, only because I've seen Labyrinth.
Yeah. And he's got the I could, although maybe not laughy giggly enough in David Bowie. I'm not sure that works for me.
That's a bit more of a Jared Leto kind of decision.
Yeah.
It feels like.
Yeah. Yeah. Here's who I would have loved. Are you ready for this one? John Lithgow.
Interesting.
And actually, it's interesting. I read the story. John Lithgow actually went to Tim Burton and begged him not to cast him in it because he didn't think it was a big deal. He was like, I don't know if it's for me, whatever, blah, blah, blah. He regrets that decision because he's like, I just didn't appreciate the size of it at the time. I didn't understand it. And let me just say, as psychos go, John Lithgow is an exceptional bad guy in films.
Oh, he's
exceptional.
He's so good. And also he's got like incredible comedic chops as well. So that just feels like a perfect marriage of the two.
Yeah. I feel like he would have been great. I feel like he would have been a really good Joker. Ray Liotta.
No. No.
A Goodfellas Joker? That totally works.
Is he playing Carmine Falcone? No. Then next.
How about James Woods? Ryan's favorite political actor, James Woods.
Ooh, piece of candy. I'm still stuck on Ray Liotta.
Look, James Woods is the worst. I think we can all agree. But I understand.
James Woods has some good films. He has good films. You just don't have to like him politically, but he has good films. He's a good actor.
He does. He is. I understand where they were going with that. I don't know. I'm not a fan of it. I don't like it. So
they settle on Jack. They don't settle on Jack Nicholson. They get him. Now Jack has some rules, so they got to play ball a little here with him. But he's in. But here's what he says: I got to have top billing. That's number one. It's me first in front of whoever you get to play Batman. So he gets that. Then he gets to pick the hours of shooting because he's not missing a Lakers home game for anything.
Oh my God.
So they had to work around like a regular work, like a 9 to 5 work schedule because tip off at the Forum is at 7 and I'm going to make it. And that's all there is to it. So they were working around this kind of diva-ish Jack Nicholson schedule. But to get F-word Jack Nicholson, you do what you got to do. They did. And guess what? Didn't miss a Lakers game. They were good in 1989. You got to see the Lakers. They went to the finals for Christ's sake.
You know what bothers me about that? I think the most, other than the fact that he is just such an incredible diva, which, I mean, great. It was a great performance, and he's great, and he's a great actor. But they had to put, 2 extra layers of makeup on his face every day because he had the Joker makeup, and then he had the makeup the Joker puts on top of his regular face.
Yep.
So he had 2 extra layers of makeup and had to do it in this way where they put very specific makeup that wouldn't come off with normal makeup remover on his face. And then real makeup on top of that so that when he wiped the sweat off his brow, you could see the white underneath. They had to come up with this whole new system, and he was asleep in the chair while they did it because he had to come in at night to get all of his shoots done or whatever the fuck it was.
Hey, you're not missing the Lakers game. Magic Johnson was still playing then. I understand. Kareem, big game James. Anyway, a lot going on there. A lot going on. Anyway. Vicky Vale, the original casting, Sean Young, the original casting. Actually, she was going to play Vicky Vale, and then she gets a horse riding accident. They needed to replace her in a pinch, and ended up being Kim Basinger.
Who is Sean Young?
Sean Young was in No Way Out with Kevin Costner. She was in Stripes. She was a really good-looking lady and was probably destined for a pretty good career, but then kind of got...
Her most notable role where Lauren would know her from was she was... Einhorn.
Lois Einhorn from Ace Ventura. Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, Lois Einhorn for sure. She
kind
of got blackballed a little bit. Like there was a stretch where people thought Sean Young was going to be like the ingenue, like of that. Like she was going to be big, and it never materialized.
And I wonder if it's a great Lois Lane type.
I think so. Yeah, you go from this. Sort of attractive brunette, and you go to a blonde in Kim Basinger. Like, you just flip it on a dime, but Kim was available, so they cast her right away. But once again, when you have a character that's one-dimensional, you don't need to cast, like, you don't need to go out and find something very specific. You can go find whatever you want.
Yeah. I think, you know what, and I think in retrospect, it might have been a good thing.
Blade Runner also was huge for her. Blade Runner.
Oh. Not that, again... Not that Kim Basinger is necessarily bad at this or that Sean Young would have been bad at this or anything. It's just that there's not much to the character anyways. And if what you're trying to do is kind of distance her a little bit from a Lois Lane, the easiest visual way to do that, especially with women, is make her blonde.
Yep.
I'm not saying I agree with it. It's just that was obviously
what's
part
the
of
first shot of Vicky Vale in this film? First shot of Vicky Vale is her legs.
Of course.
First thing you see. You're not selling anything else with Vicky Vale, right? Let's be clear. Alexander Knox walks in, who, by the way, Robert Wuhl as Alexander Knox might be... I mean, you want to talk about a scene stealer? That guy is excellent in this film. Robert Wuhl is so good in this movie. Deserves all the credit in the world. Great character, vastly underrated. Walks in, first line, hello, legs. First line. And it's just because all you see is Vicky Vale's legs. And by the way, they're nice.
I mean, it's Kim Basinger.
Sure is. Nothing wrong with it. What are some things you like about... one of the things that stuck out to me with this film, Lauren, is and Ryan, is that... So they've got this sort of noir thing going where it's, everybody's wearing hats and trench coats and the lighting feels very noir, yet we see these modern elements being thrown in, like modern cars, a boombox, we're listening to Prince songs... It just feels like there's an amalgamation of things going on with this film. Like, it's kind of like, I feel like I don't know what it wants to be. It's very stylized, yet not a period piece, yet it feels at times like a period piece and at times not. I don't, it's interesting. It's like creates its own world, but I don't know what to make of it. What did you observe with that?
I honestly, I love the aesthetic. I mean, I'm a pretty big Tim Burton person anyways, but I love the aesthetic. When I picture Gotham in my head, it's this Gotham. It's like rarely daytime throughout the course of the movie, and it's all this kind of like almost steampunk, almost cartoonish kind of like everything just looks like it doesn't look quite real. It's almost like Uncanny Valley. And I think it's supposed to look like that. It's supposed to feel like that. Everything is supposed to feel like there's a gargoyle on every top of a building.
Yeah.
And normally what they do when they film Gotham is they film it in Chicago somewhere, especially in modern movies when they're trying to make it feel a little more grounded in reality. But I almost like this more. I like that there are some modern elements there. You're right. There's boomboxes, there's regular cars. They very much exist in 1989, but the whole world feels like Gotham has never quite moved past this kind of, mob mentality of a different time, which is Gotham really hasn't, In every iteration of Gotham, the mob runs this town. That's part of why there's so much crime in it. It's not just the rogues gallery. It's the Falcone crime family and stuff. So I kind of love that it feels like a film noir, but still in 1989.
Yeah, it's a very interesting take on it. Also, I realize this. I've now watched a lot of Batman films. Except for Adam West's Batman, it's never sunny in Gotham City. I'd never live there. I would never. It's just cloudy and rainy all the time. Like it's just wet. They come out of the movie at the opening. That family, the dad and the kid and the wife, and it's. I get the juxtaposition of the Wayne thing too. I understand all that, but they're walking. It's wet. The ground is wet. It's wet everywhere. Like it's been raining in Gotham for 40 days straight.
But that's kind of the point, right? I mean, like it's just a crappy city.
Yeah, what a shitty place to live. I would never want to live there.
No, the people of Gotham don't want to live there. It's always supposed to be like that. It's never supposed to feel like a place that people would want to live. It's not Metropolis. It's not like we have hope in this city. And it's like, no, we don't have hope here. Hope died. Hope left. He hopped a train and he went that way. And that's kind of what that's what I like about this. It's the most, I don't know, in my brain, this is Gotham.
Yeah.
It kind of leaps off the comic book page a little bit when you see the way that they put the actual visuals together of the city, the very, very tight streetways, the constant offshoots of alleyways, where, if you were looking at a map of it, it might look more like Boston than Chicago. A very, old East Coast feel city, very Gothic. That everybody walks because nobody has a car, and the only cars that are around are either the very wealthy or the taxis that are driving around. And, you kind of get that with the dad yelling for taxis at the beginning of the movie. He can't get a cab. Everybody's taking cabs. But later in the movie, when he's grown, when Bruce is later in the movie, when you get to the spot where you're seeing more cars, it's further out in the city. It's kind of in the doldrums of the city where all these gangsters are driving, and Joker's guys have cars, but they look like repurposed cabs, so you don't really know. It's just kind of ambiguous, right? It can fit any time. That just like a comic book, you kind of want to project your own timeline onto it. It exists outside of our timeline.
Yeah, I think it was just one of those interesting observations that you make at the beginning, because Alexander Knox comes in early and sees Eckhart as these criminals are being loaded into the back of this, police vehicle, talking about, I saw this bat, it was a giant bat, blah, blah, blah. Which, by the way, I'm glad that guy got what he got in the early going. It sets up that great opening scene of, who are you? I'm Batman, blah, blah, blah. It's a great scene. But Eckhart, who is just a cop that reminds me of like the guy, like it reminds me of all the guys like my old man used to work with down at the U-Haul shop, like who are just nearing retirement. They've pounded a couple, 9 pots of coffee. They're smoking 20 heaters a day. That's kind of Eckhart. But again, trench coat, hat. Here comes Alexander Knox, who looks like a 40s reporter with his, his little tape recorder, and he's like, "Hey, 6 foot bad, hey, but read all about it." Blah, blah. He's all over the top. He reminds me of one of these 40 newspaper guys, and it's great. It's a phenomenal opening scene, and it's a great little way to start it. I love that kind of juxtaposition of like, here's new stuff, here's this classic feel, and you got to marry these two concepts. And I thought it was very interesting, and it's something that strikes you a little more when you watch it through this lens later on in life. Like, never would have noticed it before. Didn't care. But it sticks out a little more now.
I think because we're so used to comic book movies are constantly trying to ground themselves. Especially, this is, some people would call it a detriment. I personally don't. But a detriment of DC movies is that they're constantly trying to ground them in reality. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And so it's nice to see something like this that was so popular and so influential and really great and still so stylistic. And you just never see it anymore.
It's true. It has the feel of a big budget film. Like you watch it and you're like, yeah, it feels like this was like a big blockbuster type. Yeah, big deal. Huge. Different. Feels like a definite swing different from what you saw from other films around that time. You know, you go to Back to the Future, which is this epic blockbuster, but it doesn't feel at all like this. You know, or even the Superman movies of the mid-'80s, the Christopher Reeve Superman movies, don't feel like this at all. Like they don't have the energy that this film has, the tightness, that style. It's just beautiful. It's much different than what you've seen prior.
Yeah, completely.
Favorite scenes?
I mean, obviously, the very beginning, the I'm Batman moment. I found out apparently Michael Keaton had come up with this line on his own, which sounds so weird. The original line was "I am the night."
That seems weird.
That feels weird. The movie's about Batman, but that's cool. Whatever.
Yeah,
say what you want, I guess.
Call it whatever the hell you want.
I just to clarify, "I am the night" is a common phrase from Batman in the comic books. He says, "I am the night. I am Batman." The insinuation is supposed to be a nod to that line, but I understand why they changed it.
It's just it doesn't fit in this context at all. Can you imagine him lifting up that thug or whatever and then going, "I am the night"? That's not the same thing. That is friggin' weird. I still have questions.
If I'm the criminal, I wouldn't be scared at all. I'd be like, yeah, so what of it? It is night.
You're the night.
To be honest, that specific line reminds me of the line in The Dark Knight when the guys he ties up in the hockey pads, they say, you know, what makes us different? What makes you different than us? And he says, "I'm not wearing hockey pads."
I hate that one.
And they close it. They close the.
It actually is a great.
The Batmobile and he flies off.
It's a good line. I like it. I like that line too.
But that's another thing.
All right. So I like that. That's a good favorite scene because it does set the tone. It kind of gets it up and moving quickly, and it does what it needs to do for an opening bit. I appreciate that they don't make this an origin story, that they just are like, yeah, we're going right in. We're diving right into this thing. And you're in from the beginning at that point. So I like it. Yeah, it's a good scene. What else? Ryan, do you have a favorite? Want to throw one out?
You know, I really like the end of it. I like the kind of, it's not really even a fight scene where he and Joker are just kind of monologuing to each other up at the top of the church. I really, about how they made each other. I kind of like that scene. I felt like it got really campy at the end, but I really did like it. You know, the back and forth of Batman revealing that, Joker killed his parents. Not even really a reveal because Joker knew, but it reminds me of a Batman Beyond scene where one of the villains says, "Who are you?" to Batman Beyond, and Batman says, "You killed my parents." And this villain says, "Do you have the slightest idea how little that narrows it down?"
It's a great line.
And it reminds me of that when I think about the Joker line about, that's just who he is. That's just who he was when he killed Batman's parents. It's just so nonchalant. I just liked it as far as a character moment.
Joker rules.
I also like that. So, in the comics and in most iterations of the Joker-Batman dynamic, we don't know who the Joker is. We know in this movie, he's Jack Napier, which is created for this movie. That's not a thing. And the reason that the Joker that we don't know who the Joker is, that Batman doesn't know who the Joker is because they're always supposed to feel like sides of a coin, in many ways they are meant to mirror each other, all their bad habits. And so I was a little annoyed that we knew who he was in this movie And then at the end, when they bring it full circle, that he is the reason that Bruce's parents are dead. I just thought that thematically that was good, because like you're missing a very key part of Batman's like original story here, and that's just a good way to tie it in this movie. You can take creative licenses all you want as long as it makes sense, and so I kind of like that.
I will say the one creative license that I really had an issue with, and Lauren and I mentioned this while we were watching the movie, was the sheer number of times Batman just straight up killed somebody, including the Joker at the end of the movie. That it's Batman's one rule. He does not kill. It's the line that separates him and the Joker, that for all their similarities, the Joker's willing to kill and Batman isn't. And that's what drives Joker to try and get Batman to cross that line, particularly with him. That Joker wants the Batman to kill him specifically. And it becomes a major focus of this sort of adversarial relationship between the two of them that is just sort of thrown away at the end of this movie and never really addressed at any point afterward, right? Like that what's the point of not killing these thugs in the street if what you're going to do is end up killing the big boss and you end up crossing that line anyway? It's really a betrayal of the character. And you can kind of chalk that up to, this is 1989. This is before they were really planning sequels. This is really before comic book movies were a big thing, and you're not really adhering to a comic book character as much as you should. But Bob Kane was a part of this, and to know that, and to know that he, for all I understand, was okay with his character, whose one line is not to kill, killing, frankly, dozens of people, and then his biggest rival. It feels like a major betrayal of the character. And I really didn't like that depiction of it.
It's an interesting observation. I guess I hadn't thought about it quite like that, but it makes good sense, because you're right. It does seem like he's a little more careless with like, there's not that, like, it's really about revenge on a lot of this stuff as opposed to like really fighting crime. And that's why that vigilante thing really feels right for him in this movie, as far as like, can we trust him? Can we not? Is he whatever? I guess that's the line they were pushing for, and I guess it sort of works, because I guess you have to create that brooding Batman feel. It had to be so different from Adam West and from campy Batman. You have to, I think, get to a place where, it's like, man, that guy's got some real pain. He's got some real issues.
Right, and you're in a spot canonically with the comics at this point in 1989, where Batman has been established to be a darker character, but his one rule it's not just don't kill, but the lesson that you get from Batman is that vengeance isn't justice. He says that multiple times throughout multiple comic runs, that's the lesson he teaches the Bat family. That's the lesson he's teaching these people that he runs into in the street, is I beat the hell out of people because it's the system of justice that works in Gotham, but it's not vengeance. And I'm not killing. I'm not taking that step to take revenge. It's just the way that justice is handled in a crooked system.
Other favorite scenes. I will say I have one. I love the Axis Chemical scene. It's a great scene. And I love the different working parts. It's a good action scene, actually. All the way up to the setup from Jack Palance's character, Carl Grissom, kind of setting up the Jack Nicholson character to get killed by the crooked police officer, who, by the way, again, Eckhart, crooked. No way you would have thought that right away 5 minutes into the film. You didn't look at him and go, that's a crooked cop, right? No. But
by the way, quick note on that actor. I don't know if you recognize him or his name, but William Hootkins is the actor. He was also famously Red 3 in Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope, he was a fan of American Graffiti, and he begged George Lucas for the role, and they gave him the role Porkins because he was the fat guy in the cast, and he went on to play Eckhart God rest his soul.
There you go. That's deep stuff.
I loved that fact. I loved everything about that fact.
That was a good fact. Well done, Ryan. Bring in it today. Bring in the noise. I love this scene because everybody's in play too. Every character really is involved here. You got Commissioner Gordon, you have Eckhart, you have Jack, you have Batman, you have all these henchmen, you have a nice shootout scene with the cops, and you're trying to figure out who's crooked, who's not, and it's just it's a really nice sequence, and it doesn't take forever. It's not drawn out, and yet we establish the Joker falling into this, this toxic whatever. And that's what creates the face disfiguration, and that it leads us to the character. It's really a nice setup for this Joker origin. And Jack Jack is throwing 105 this entire movie, by the way. Like he is just swinging wild the entire way. And it's really I know people love him in this role. I still think this is an underrated Nicholson performance in general. I think people, when they think Nicholson, they run to One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. They talk about The Shining, and they talk about A Few Good Men and The Departed, and rightfully so. Like, those are all great. But this is such a different move for him. It's a stretch for him, and he's great in it. Like, playing this animated, physical, over-the-top type character.
What I noticed, and like, I haven't seen this movie in such a long time, mostly because I watched Batman Returns far more than I watched this one, and I'll get to that later. But I remember when The Dark Knight came out, and we were all talking about Heath Ledger's Joker and who's better, Heath Ledger or Jack Nicholson. And I used to think, well, they're totally different. Like, it's apples and oranges. Jack Nicholson is existing in a totally different iteration of this character. But rewatching it, I think to myself, I think that this version of the Joker could exist in other Batman films.
No question.
Like, it's that good. It's that feeling of like just chaotic energy, and he's very similar to like Mark Hamill's Joker to me, which is for me the pinnacle.
Yeah, I feel like it's a marriage of like the Cesar Romero Joker to a certain extent, with the color. Like, he's dressed up, he wears his suit. It's a purple suit versus whatever. I mean, he's got a little bit of Cesar Romero, just enough to, I think, homage that, but also like a darkness, like a real villainy factor, because he's pretty evil. He kills a lot of people in the first hour of this. He is about as ruthless and as cold-hearted as it gets. And I just think this is great Nicholson stuff. Like, this is as classic a Jack Nicholson role as you're going to get. It's so good.
I fully agree. I know we talked about some of the other Jokers, some of the other people that were up for it, and they would have been good, but this just feels like it's perfect for him.
Yeah.
It's flawless. Totally
logical. Any other favorite scenes you want to throw out before we go to least favorite scenes?
They're all Joker scenes.
They are.
The first Joker scene with the mob boss that he fries to death.
Yep. Great.
I love that entire scene. I love the commercial that he puts on in the middle of the news broadcast.
Great scene.
Love it. It all pretty much just all Joker scenes are my favorite.
I agree. I love the museum. He's dancing. And that's the thing. Jack Nicholson, you never think of him as this dancey, physical, like he's a great actor. I've never thought of him as a physical actor. Like,
I can feel him having so much fucking fun in this movie.
No doubt.
It's emanating off of him.
That museum scene is as fun as it gets. I mean, he's got this Prince song, and it's this weird thing like, did I ever picture Jack Nicholson dancing to Prince? No. But yet here it is. It's fantastic. It totally works for me. I love it. Yeah, you're right. I love it. Pretty much every Joker scene is great. And he carries that film in that regard. Mm-hmm. Ryan, any other favorites?
No. I really like this movie. It's hard for me to pick one out. but I'll stick with my original pick of the end.
Least favorite scenes. I got a couple. What are yours?
I got one that is, I don't know if anybody noticed it but me, but I just felt it was stupid. The Joker is, I can't remember what's happening now, but there's like some kind of press conference and the Joker comes through and kills that guy with a pen.
Yep.
And then his goons come out and start to like shoot around. So everybody drops to the ground. Bruce Wayne is less than 6 feet away. I mean, he's like barely social distancing from the Joker here. And he's the only one who is not laying on the ground in fear. And he just like feels compelled, like he's under his spell or something, to just like walk towards him. He like walks over other people to gaze at him. It is the weirdest thing I have ever seen. And it's so obvious. I feel like I would look, if I knew who Bruce Wayne was and who Batman was in this city, I would be like, it's that fucking guy, isn't it?
What I don't understand, this is where I've had trouble with this, with the Joker-Batman relationship, Bruce Wayne relationship. So, like, he gets that scene where Bob brings him all the photos, right? And he sees Vicky Vale for the first time. And he's like, oh, stop the press. Who is that? It's like, oh, that's Vicky Vale, and she's dating a guy named Wayne. A guy named Wayne? He's the richest goddamn guy in the town.
This is another thing that bothers me.
He just had a goddamn party where everybody was there.
This is another thing that bothers me. Bruce Wayne is famous.
Famous.
He's famous. He's the richest guy in this completely Dickensian city by God knows how much money. You don't know who this is?
Yeah.
Just someone you know is dating like the most famous, richest person in town. You know who this is. And
for him to say like, oh, she's about to trade up like Jack, like no way, there's no way the Jack Napier character doesn't know who Bruce Wayne is. There's no 100%. Goddamn way, right?
100%.
You're bad at your job if you don't know who the richest guy is in the town. You're really bad at this.
Well, none of them know what he looked like. Like when he meets Vicky Vale for the first time, he and oh God, I can't remember his name. The newspaper guy.
Yeah, Knox. He sees a picture of Knox and goes, "Who's this loss?" You don't read the papers? Like I know what the reporters look like in this town. You don't. But they don't know what Bruce Wayne looks like. He like employs half the city theoretically. Like you don't I feel like that would be like not knowing what Bill Gates looks like. Exactly.
You know what I mean?
It makes no sense. So what's happening here? That's a big problem that they don't know who each other is.
Oh, that really bothers me. That really bugs me.
Jesus Christ. Ryan.
This is kind of a problem throughout Batman movies though. Like we noticed this in Justice League as well, that Bruce Wayne is tooling around the world trying to find these heroes, and people just don't seem to know it's Bruce Wayne. And there's whole lines that demonstrate that there are people in the world who not only don't know who Bruce Wayne is, but don't seem to have any idea what Wayne Enterprises is or how wealthy this man is. Like, I'm pretty sure if you said the words to anybody in the United States right now, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, you know who those people are just by the fact that they're wealthy, right? They become a status symbol. And in a world that is so propped up on greed like Gotham City is, a world that's so obsessed with money, the richest guy in that city isn't the most well known. Like he might be this reclusive billionaire, but nobody knows who he is. And this seems to happen in every Batman movie.
They make him out to be like he's Willy Wonka, like he hasn't left the chocolate factory in 100 years and nobody knows what he looks like. Even Alexander Knox doesn't know what he looks like.
But there's 150 people at his house for this ball that is reportedly a regular thing.
Yeah. Hardest ticket in town to get. Can't get in there.
Everybody in this town lives in a 1-bedroom apartment infested with roaches, and he lives in a mansion on the hill, and nobody knows who this guy is. What do you all just think that Dracula lives there? What do you think that mansion is?
And you're saying he never leaves the house? Like he's never in the town? He's not shopping for groceries ever, and nobody ever says, "Hey, that's Bruce Wayne." I mean, my God.
It bugs me.
People know who the Loch Ness Monster is, and they don't know who Bruce Wayne is. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Anyway, I have to point that out. That just drove me nuts that Vicky Vale and Alexander Knox, who are supposed to be top-notch reporters, Vicky Vale gets an invite to the goddamn party, and she doesn't know who he is? Hasn't seen a picture?
Bruce Wayne knows who Vicky Vale is, but she doesn't know who he is. That's the world we're living in?
I'm apoplectic. I don't know. I didn't know what to do with that information at 39. I didn't give a shit when I was 8 or 9, but I care now at 39. It bothers me.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yep. I'm annoyed. I'm annoyed, I think, to say the least.
We got to talk about this, too. This is another least favorite for me. There's just no chemistry between Vicky Vale and Bruce Wayne. There's just none. None. Zero. No. Like, there's more chemistry on the dating game. You know, I've seen more chemistry on bad dates from The Love Connection than I've seen from these two.
But this all comes back to there's nothing to her, you know? If we're supposed to like believe that they're two characters who genuinely connected because they're both like smart, witty people, I get that from him. I don't get that from her. She just like goes on this date. Yeah. She just goes on this date, and then when they move out of that big dining room, she's just laughing. She's not talking. She doesn't say anything. Things just happen to her in this movie. She has no lines, no actions that aren't in relation to something someone else is doing.
It's fair.
So boring.
And if we really look at the dynamics of their relationship, Bruce, kind of a dick. Like, they go on one date, they have relations, he gets her drunk. You notice how he's not drunk in that scene? When they're going up the stairs and she's like, I'm a little drunk and blah-bitty-blue-bitty-blue-bitty-blue. Bruce Wayne, not drunk at all. Not drunk at all. Then they have relations. And he doesn't call her. And he's not calling her back.
He tells her, okay, first of all, he tells her, I'm going out of town on business. And she's like, oh, that makes sense. You're a businessman. You go out town on business. Yes. And she goes downstairs, and Alfred can't even cover for her.
Yeah. You know what, Bruce, maybe talk to Alfred and work this plan out ahead of time. Like, give him the old, hey, we're bringing a hot chick over. We're going to run the old businessman play. Be ready. You know, be ready the next day, will you? God,
There's
Alfred.
so much about this. First of all, he's a bit of a jag. So as a character, so I kind of understand that. Not that it's cool. It's just. I
was gonna say you're endorsing this kind of jagoffery, and I don't understand.
I'm not. It makes sense, you know. But that Alfred can't even just roll with the punches.
Just a horrible wingman. He's like the worst wingman ever.
Just can't even. A woman walks down and says, I'll see you after your trip. You just say, okay.
Yeah.
I'm not cool with it. I'm just saying it annoyed me a little bit.
This is where I got to pull Alfred in by the tux. And this is where I'm dragging him in and going, listen, old man, when I say something, I need you to just go along with it. Do you understand? Do you understand how this works?
He's been keeping Batman's secret for God knows how long, and it can't just be like, yeah, we're going out of town.
Yeah, it's the most ridiculous thing ever. And there's stuff there.
There is just so much about this movie that when you look at it with a critical lens, it is kind of shallow. Like, the reason that I think that I like Batman Returns more, aside from the fact that Catwoman is in it and she's fabulous.
Yeah, Michelle Pfeiffer's, there's a lot
Perfect.
to like.
Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
But I do feel like in the second one, the plot makes a little bit more sense. The character motivations make a little bit more sense. You know, there are actual backstories to people's lives. And in this one, it just kind of feels like, I understand that the Joker's motivations in like almost every iteration of him is just like to cause chaos, you know, but he seems to have a goal in mind in this movie. And I don't even know what it is, you know, like he says at one point, I want my face on the $1 bill. And then he like kidnaps Vicky Vale, like an old timey villain with a mustache. Why? Like, why? What does that accomplish? Like, he doesn't even seem to know that she's like romantically attached to Batman. So why? Like, I don't know. None of it seems to make any like actual sense. It is just like a lot of fun to watch, you know? So if you're looking for like character depth, and I don't think we're going to get it in this movie. No. And I think you just have to kind of resign yourself to that.
You're probably right about that. I got to put it past. I just couldn't. I was really scuffling with that early on in the process. And also I just have to, one that, you know, I watched all, 100 episodes of the original Batman series, and you couldn't, nobody's seeing that Batcave. Do you understand? Like, that's the rule. And I don't care how close you are, you're not seeing it. Nobody's getting in there. Even the goddamn Scooby-Doo gang, who are right as rain, had to be blindfolded to go to the Batcave, right? Right as rain, Scooby-Doo is, but Scooby, the dog, had to be blindfolded. He couldn't go to the Batcave unless this is ridiculous that Alfred just walks Vicky down there. Come on down. And what's her reaction when she goes down there? Like, well, this place is interesting. Are you out of your mind?
Alfred has no chill.
No chill.
None whatsoever. And Vicky Vale is way too cool with this.
If
I found out that somebody I was dating dresses up like a bat, not only dresses up like a bat, fights crime like that.
Yeah, because Ryan dresses like a bat.
Basement dedicated to that endeavor, I would run, probably.
Well, you definitely would have a different reaction than just standing there and going, well, this is something. This is fascinating. Like, seriously, you go down and find Ryan's Batcave tonight. You find the Shakespeare statue, you lift up the head, there's the button, it opens up the thing, you go down the pole, you're in the Batcave. What is your reaction is not just stand there and look around. Your reaction is what?
Well, now we've been together for almost 12 years. So now my reaction would be like, cool, let's put a movie theater down here.
Well, you're clearly not using this for anything else.
No, why do you need all these giant computers? I am going to use it to play PC games that children play because I'm not good enough to play PC games.
This is doing great for my self-esteem, by the way. Keep it up.
I would love it if you went down there and went, seriously, we've been together 12 years, and now I'm finding out about this? You mean to tell me we could have been driving in that car? You mean to tell me we could have taken a trip in that bat plane, and instead we've been driving around in a freaking EcoSport?
100%. 100%. But that's also because I haven't been on a singular date with a man. One date, they're in love. He's revealing his secret identity to her. He's revealing this weird, very niche activity that he's created. And she's just like kind of cool with it. I don't know, like I have no. There are no words.
They must have blown each other's minds in the sack. That's the only.
You got to be onto something right there because there's not a lot of chemistry in this relationship. And listen, if Bruce would run the fade pattern on her like he basically does for the lion's share of this film, and yet she still keeps coming back for more, there's got to be something going on there. I mean, there has to be some real.
This has real get married, resent it, and have kids to save the marriage kind of vibes to it. Like, you were a great Leia once. Let's call it off, and let me continue to be Batman. You continue to be photojournalist. But no, we're going to continue to pursue this despite the overwhelming evidence that this is a horrible idea and we're bad for each other, to say nothing of the fact that a killer clown man is breaking into her apartment and nearly killing them both. So I think at some point you have to question the sanity of both of them. One, because he dresses up in a rubber bat suit, and the other one because not only does she only lay him once and then continue to pursue that, but also because she allows this to happen despite the fact that the bad things continue to follow him around.
But that's because things just happen to her. She has no agency. She has no original thought. She's supposed to be this incredible photojournalist. She doesn't do anything for herself this entire movie.
Yeah, this is really an insult to photojournalists and really their entire profession. I don't know how you can read this as anything else, because it's clear that Knox is the one that's pulling all the strings in this Batman story. She just wants to take the picture, and
she doesn't either.
She doesn't, and she does. She gets multiple pictures, and then Bruce Wayne attempts to seduce her and steals the film. He doesn't actually attempt to seduce her.
Does call her fat, by the way, too. I mean, it's kind of low-key calls her fat. You weigh a little more than 108. You know, it's very quick dropping that line on her, too. Very charming, that Bruce Wayne, that Batman.
Oh, my God. And she says, she looks at the fucking camera and says, I weigh 108 pounds. I have so many questions. No, you don't.
First of all, 108 my ass, you weigh 108. And by the way, I'm not even saying you look bad. You look fantastic, but you don't weigh 108.
108 pounds? Are you no, you don't weigh 108 pounds, A. And B, how dare he? If she wants to lie about her weight, you shut the hell up. What, are you going to pick her up because she's 115? You're not going to save her because she's 115 pounds or whatever?
Yeah, your bat cable is only good for 108 pounds? Man, 115?
As the great philosopher Fletcher Reed once said, in your bra, in the great movie Liar Liar. Nobody else remembers that line, I guess.
It's a great line. I agree with you. The thing I'm sitting here, I'm like, what's it to you? I would say to Batman this, though. What's it to you? Your bat cable? Does it only have certain amount of weight restriction? Sorry, the bat cable only has 140-pound weight limit. We just can't go over it, and if you get close to it, the whole cable could come undone. I'd like to think Batman does not save fat people. Let's be very clear. He can't do it. Just can't do it. He assesses that damage ahead of time. He looks over and he says, I don't think this is going to work.
Batman hates fat people.
He hates fat people. Let's be honest.
If I were her, I would have looked at him and been like, well, how much do you weigh? I weigh that much.
Yeah.
That's how much.
Whatever you weigh, that's me. Thank you.
Don't ask me that fucking question. Are you going to help me or not?
Exactly. Oh, my God. Yeah, my least favorite scenes are often these Vicky scenes, and I hate it for Alexander Knox because he's working his ass off here, and he's been friend-zoned by Vicky Vale. Just friend-zoned by her the entire way. He's like, let's go to dinner. I'll walk the trail with you. We'll plan this out. Oh, this is great. I'm going to do all this research for you. Nothing. Gets nothing.
To be fair, it was him versus the billionaire with the absolutely fried hairline that Michael Keaton is rocking in this movie. So really, who's to say who should be picked between the two of them? This very successful Pulitzer Prize winning, I'm assuming, journalist and the billionaire with the worst hair I've ever seen.
It was 1989. Give him a break.
That hair doesn't deserve a break.
So here's the thing. Everybody else in this movie is wearing a goddamn hat but Bruce Wayne, and he's the one guy that needs to wear a hat. All these other people could not wear a hat and they'd be fine. The one guy who needs to wear one is Batman, and he's not wearing one.
it's clear to me that the rubber mask was just rubbing the hair off of his forehead. There's just like a tight spot in there, and it's just rubbing the hair out of the front of his hairline. So you've got to get the perm and just fry that up, because there's just no other answer to that, I guess, in the 1980s, as evidenced by him and by Billy Crystal in When Harry Met Sally. So
you know what though, Billy Crystal rocks that. I can't explain why. I don't know the difference between the two, and I can't explain it to you.
I can tell you the difference between the two. The difference between the two is the fact that Billy Crystal in When Harry Met Sally isn't a goddamn billionaire who could literally pay for anybody to do his hair. That this is Trump level hair. Like, there's no explanation for somebody with this level of money. There's no reason for someone with this level of money not to be able to have some kind of professional hairdresser to make him look respectable.
Oh, that is professional, honey. It's 1989. That shit's a perm. That is a perm. That's all our dads. Look, all of our dads had that haircut. Had that exact same style.
To be completely honest,
your dad had that haircut.
No, he did not.
He had
my dad had a permed mullet.
Yeah, he looked like Lionel Richie.
Where he also wore 3 earrings in his left ear. That man used to be a breakdancer, and now he's a grandfather.
Your dad was Lionel Richie. Oh my God, I was just guessing, and turns out he is Lionel Richie.
Yeah, that's how he bagged my mom, who is the nicest person I know.
I don't know if I want to hear you talking about this.
Astonishing to me. But that was the 80s, I guess.
That was the style. I can't blame him for that style.
A lot of drugs, a lot of vinyl.
So yeah, a lot of perms. Too many perms.
A lot of perms, definitely. All right, let's get to the ingenue up and down. This is let's talk. We kind of talked about her a little bit, but are we in or out on Kim Basinger?
I mean, there's nothing wrong with Kim Basinger. I don't necessarily think it was a bad casting choice. She's really the thing, especially at this time. She's doing what is asked of her. There's nothing. They just give her nothing to work with.
Why isn't
she's a nothing character?
She's a good-looking lady and not a bad actress. Mm-hmm. Like, why doesn't she have a bigger? A resume, if you will. Like, why isn't she in more great stuff?
I genuinely don't know. I should have done a little research into her before this, because that's all I kept thinking during this movie is like, she was really hot shit during this time, and she's beautiful. And I just can't remember the last time I've even seen her in anything.
Like, she does this movie. I feel like I didn't see her again. Now, she was in other stuff, right? Because she was Honey Hornet in Wayne's World, but that was a bit part, right? Mm-hmm. She basically does this film in 1989, and you don't really see her again. Like, in a real, like, first of all, well, she is in Mary Jane's Last Dance. She's the dead girl in Tom Petty's video, which is a pretty incredible video, to be honest with you. But you don't really see her again until 1997 when she does L.A. Confidential. And she's great in L.A. Confidential. It's a great film. And then you don't see her again until really 8 Mile. So, like, she's got a couple of these really solid films in the 90s and early 2000s, but there's a lot of nothing in there other than Tom Petty's video, of course, which might be her best work. I don't know. It's that 5 minutes.
She did play Zac Efron's mom in Charlie St. Cloud.
Yes, that's true. She is in that. Yep. She is in that. You're right.
Which was inexplicably 11 years ago now.
But yeah. Oof. But that's a pretty... She's going from being the ingenue in the top movie of the year, and she doesn't really parlay that into anything.
That is, yeah, I'm looking at her IMDb page, and Charlie St. Cloud is the last thing she was in that I've heard of.
Yeah, well, 50 Shades Freed, but she's uncredited in that, which I'm sure
she's uncredited in. Oh, because she's just in the 50 Shades movie.
Oh,
apparently.
She is. Okay, yep, she's in these movies. Yep, okay, yep. I didn't know that she was because I haven't seen those, but.
No, I have no idea who this character is.
Yeah, they're not allowed. They didn't allow men in the theaters for those films. Anyway.
You know what? You're good. you saved yourself some time.
I think Wifey went to the first one, just to go off the tangent, and then I think I asked her, I go, how many men were in that movie theater? And she's like, I gotta tell you, I don't think there was one. I really don't. I think it was all women.
I watched the first one because I thought it would be funny, and then it was just as bad as I thought it would be, except for not fun at all.
There you go. I think that's about fair. But so Basinger, is she up or down here?
I go down, and not because it's anything she did. It isn't her fault. It's just that the character kind of sucks. She had absolutely nothing to latch onto. With you. She's great. There are certain scenes where I'm like, oh man, I forgot. She's good. She's a good actress. There are a lot of the Joker scenes that she's in where she's like really, really terrified. I actually think she does that really well, but there's just, other than that, there's really nothing for her to do.
This should have been a bigger jump off point for her. Like, she should have been able to parlay this into something better and didn't do that. And I'm out on it, by the way. I'm giving it, she's down on this for me. And again, it's not really all her fault. It's not a great character, but it just doesn't work. Like, there's no chemistry with Bruce Wayne. The fact that she doesn't come back for the second makes the second one have a problem because she knows too much. I have to just assume Bruce Wayne had her killed. I just have to assume it because she knows too much. Knows too much. We can't continue the story. It just doesn't work. And for whatever reason, it just never comes together with her in this film. And so I got to go down.
Well, especially when you compare it to, in the second one, his chemistry with Michelle Pfeiffer, Michelle Pfeiffer is the type of person who could have chemistry.
Well, yeah.
I mean,
she could have chemistry
with a loaf of bread.
Loaf of bread. Easy. Certainly.
And the two of them have crazy chemistry in the second one. And
I need to step in for just a second and just remind Tim to chill out for just a second on the Michelle Pfeiffer thing. You're just getting a little out of control. When we're bringing her up, that's just.
I was going to say that Michelle Pfeiffer. I just look. I'm not telling stories out of school here. Michelle Pfeiffer's good looking, and I think she's talented. It's okay, right? It's not against the law. If I can talk about Brendan Fraser for a full hour on this podcast with that same energy, you can talk about Michelle Pfeiffer for a minute. Yeah. I mean, Jesus Christ, she's a good actress and she's hot as fire. I mean, what is that? What's the problem here? What is the problem? You have chemistry with that banana cream pie, almost an unhealthy one, and I have a little chemistry with Michelle Pfeiffer. What's the problem?
I can't fight you on that.
Thank you very much. By the way, in fairness to you, I don't know a lot of guys who don't have chemistry with a banana cream pie. I got to tell you, I've had many good conversations with it.
It's just the superior pie.
It really is. 100%. Hundy P on that one. Absolutely on board with you on that. All right. Let's go to the rankings. Once again, we're speech judges here, so we have to rank in the 1 to 5 system, as you would in any forensics round. I'm assuming all of our listeners are giant forensics and speech and debate fans, so here we go. Let's go with that. Who gets the 1?
Jack Nicholson.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Totally agree. 100.
Yeah.
Phenomenal performance by Jack Nicholson. One of my all-time favorites.
It's the kind of one where we're telling the kids to run that piece next year.
Correct. That's exactly. You do everything that person did and do it just like that, and we'll be just fine. Just like that. Although nobody has done the Joker just like that since, and I can't figure out why. Like, literally, just do that.
Because he's too iconic. Everybody's trying to deliberately do something different than what Jack Nicholson did. Otherwise, they're going to be constantly compared to him.
I'm just saying. Just do that. This isn't hard. Like, it's not that. It'd be just like when they reboot Indiana Jones one day without Harrison Ford and they start over. I would just say, okay, plug in Raiders and do that. Like, that's it. That would be all I would do as a director. Like, you don't need to do anything more. Perfect. Just like that. Give me that, except younger now. New person, but the same thing.
Speaking of that, they just announced a casting for the new Indiana Jones movie, which we can touch on later. But
there you go. Boy, we got to do an Indiana Jones film out here too. We got to do Raiders. Get Raiders on the list. We got to get that.
It's been a minute.
That's poof. Okay, number 2.
Michael Keaton.
Yeah.
I have to specify this, though, as Michael Keaton as Batman.
I disagree.
I have to say only Michael Keaton's Batman gets the 2, not the Bruce Wayne Batman.
I just really think, I don't know. He's like peak Batman for me.
He's good as Batman. I just don't want him as Bruce Wayne as part of this, too. I don't want the package. I want to separate the package.
I love him as Bruce Wayne in this. Like I said, it just feels effortless.
Yeah, I would say that there's a lack of effort there. I would agree that there's not a lot of effort.
I don't want to hear that from Kevin Costner's number 1 fan.
I didn't say I was his number 1 fan. I just said I wept at the end of Field of Dreams. Some of us still have blood running through their veins.
Right. I think this is I think he's perfect as Bruce Wayne. I think he's the kind of dark, brooding guy that he needs to be as Batman, but I also think that he's incredibly just like smooth and intelligent. And I think in the script it said something like Bruce Wayne should be the kind of guy who has muscles on muscles. And it just feels like he doesn't need to be that kind of guy to still have that kind of like innate attraction to other people.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get that.
He's just smooth. I love it.
See, I think Bale is a little smoother, although I agree with you. It's a little more fake, right? I think he looks the part a little more as Bruce Wayne. I'm not sure Michael Keaton looks the part as debonair Bruce Wayne. I never buy that he's debonair. And again, nobody knows who he is. I buy reclusive, but that wouldn't make me, if I'm Vicky Vale, instantly attracted to him, where I'd go on one date and do stuff. Like, I don't know if that's enough for me on that one. I just don't buy it. Don't buy the chemistry on that. All right, but I'm with you. I'll give it to you. Number 3.
Okay, so this is where I run into issues because there are not that many people in this movie who like all have names that I care about. You know?
Yep.
So I guess I'm putting Knox at 3.
Me too. I had Knox. I had Robert Wool. Alexander Knox. He's 3. Mm-hmm. Totally agree. I thought, and the thing is, he's supposed to die in this film. Like, he is supposed to, but Tim Burton and the writers were like, dude, we like you. Like, it's so good. We have to keep you alive.
He's a nice like add to the movie.
Yeah.
Just like, not like a comic relief or anything. Just kind of like a nice little touchstone to the world they live in.
Yeah, I could have used him in more Batman films. I like this character. I love this kind of... I just like having this filter, this other guy, this other piece to kind of bounce it off of and make sense of it all. I'm in on Alexander Knox. I'm in on it.
I agree.
Number 4.
Kim Basinger, I guess. I mean, there aren't that many people in this movie.
This is where I have Michael Keaton as Bruce Wayne. So I have Keaton as Batman as my 2. He is 2 and 4 in this film. He's 2 and 4. Bruce Wayne to me gets the 4 here. I just don't... Yeah, it doesn't always work for me. It's fine. It's just not great. It's fine enough.
I love it. You're wrong, but I understand your choice.
Kim Basinger gets my 4.
And 5 is Basinger for me. I give Kim Basinger my 5.
Alfred, I guess.
Alfred.
I mean, he is the most Alfred ever Alfred, even though he has literally no chill. And he can't take a hint.
Worst wingman ever.
Worst wingman ever. Can't cover for Bruce, even though he's been keeping his secret for God knows how long.
Yep. Really too quick to want to spill the beans to Vicky about everything. Just too quick.
A little quick.
Yeah. You maybe vet out the people that you're going... Maybe not a nosy photojournalist to get Batcave... wouldn't be the first person I'd give access to the old Batcave. Wouldn't be. Feel like she'd spill the beans. I don't know. Just me. All right. This was a good pod, guys. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Oh, my goodness. So much. We got to get together more often for this stuff. Hour 49 minutes on this podcast. This is a new record for our pod. But I love it. And there's so much. We're going to talk offline here and pick the next movie for us. And we're going to get back into this thing much quicker. I'd like to get another one in before the end of April. Ryan, for those who continue to listen to us for other things, a little cross-promotional, Ryan has made a mock draft, and he will be in for the football pod either this weekend or early next week to reveal it. I know, Ryan, you were pumped about it. I can't wait to have the podcast with Ryan back on it in just a few short days. It's going to be great. Can't wait for it, Ryan.
Yeah, can't wait. It's going to be good.
Great. We also have so much other stuff going on. The golf pod, I want to appreciate everybody who's been listening to that and been supporting that. It's been really cool. I appreciate it. Thank you to Ty for helping me out, and thanks for all my listeners for helping me out for that. And obviously, Peak Cinema is gigantic. Every time Lauren's in here, we do very well. People love Lauren. They love the show. They love having Lauren on. If we could get Lauren on every week, we would. We want to do it, but she's very busy. And watching films is tough. But we want to get Lauren in quickly, so that's why we're going to talk offline here in just a minute, pick our next film, and get back at this thing as fast as we can. I thoroughly enjoyed it, guys.
Yeah,
this is great.
You guys rule.
I'll talk Batman all day, any day.
Yeah, we spent so much time on this that we didn't get a chance to really rip Zack Snyder as much as we would have really liked to. So we might have to reserve an extra 5 minutes here for you to just rip Zack Snyder, like if you have the strength.
I mean, I can, and I will, and I have, and I'll do it again.
We're going to have to mark it down. Next podcast, I have to give you 5 minutes to destroy somebody. Like, we'll call it Lauren Destroys Somebody in Hollywood. That'll be a great segment. It's going to be really fun. I can't wait to write it in on the next one. It's going to be great. I want to thank again. You can find the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You can find us on Podbean. You can send me an email at timpodcast1@yahoo.com. You can find us on Twitter at Mr. Tim Anderson, Instagram at Mr. Tim Anderson. You can find Lauren Kane at Go Fuck Yourself, and you can find Ryan Kane at Sweet Kane Music. If you have any questions about this pod, we'd love to hear from you. And also share the hell out of it. Tell people you know, and we'll go from there. So on behalf of Lauren and Ryan, it's Tim saying keep your head up, and we'll see you next time.